Welcome everyone to this course where I'm going to teach you the simple yet powerful trading concept and trading strategy called the break and retest. Now, I'm particularly excited about this course because not only am I using the break and retest concept in my own trading, but I also believe it's a very useful concept for all traders to know. So in this course, you are going to learn about the break and retest and how to identify the break and retest pattern and how to execute your trade ideas using the break and retest concept. I'm going to give you a general description of the concept and how you can apply it to your current system. But that's not all. I'm also going to give you a specific detailed trading system that you can use as a standalone trading system. So let's jump right into the course. I'm looking forward to teaching you everything I know about this simple yet very effective way of trading the markets. All right, welcome back guys. Let's take a look at what this course has to offer. Now the course, as you can see, is divided up into 3 different parts. In part number 1, the fundamentals of break and retest, we are going to, yes, you guessed correct, we're going to talk about the fundamentals of the break and retest concept. We're going to talk about what it actually is and how to identify it. And then here we're also going to talk about the importance of market structure, supply and demand, etc. And then we will move on to part number 2, and this is where it gets exciting because this is where we are going to start talking about applying the break and retest strategy as a new strategy, or how to apply it into your already existing strategy. I'm going to show you different ways on how to enter trades. We're going to talk about stop loss placement, take profit placement, and all of that. And of course, I'm also going to show you examples of different trade setups in different markets. And then finally, in part number 3, I will give you a summary of this whole course, and I will also talk about how we can move forward and actually start trading this system. All right, I hope you guys are ready. Let's get started with the part number 1 in the next video. Welcome back guys. In the first part of this course, this is where we're going to talk about the fundamentals of the system, and we're going to start with an explanation of what the break and retest concept actually is and how to identify it in the markets. And then we'll move on to the importance of market structure. Now here, I will spend some time talking about the role of supply and resistance level with the break and retest concept. And then finally, at the end of this first part, we are going to talk about the different trading styles and the fractal nature of price action, because the break and retest concept can be applied to many different types of trading styles. I'm also going to talk about the best assets and which are the best assets to trade when using the break and retest concept. And I'm also going to briefly talk about and touch on the on what the best time frames are to use, and also talk about the idea of using a multi-time frame analysis approach. But first of all, let's talk about what the break and retest strategy actually is. So because the break and retest system, obviously, it's all about the breakout. Okay, so to be able to identify the break and retest concept, you first have to understand what a breakout is. So I'm briefly going to talk about what a breakout is and also what a fake out is. And I have I have a couple of examples I want to go through here. So again, we have a pretty good break and retest right here. And you see that one candle is nicely breaking above this one right here. And why this is a good breakout is because you have the first candle breaking through the level, and we can actually add a zone here. So let's just incorporate this price action right here. This is what I call a clean breakout, where you have one thrust candle, and we'll call the breakout, we'll call it the breakout candle. So we got the breakout candle right here is nicely breaking straight through the level, and it's closing up here. There is no immediate retests. Okay, so immediate retest would be if you had the candle closing here, and then there's another candle opening, and there's a wick testing that level, and then there's the retest. Actually, you know what? Let's see if I can find an immediate retest to kind of show you what I'm actually talking about here. Let's see, do we have an immediate retest anywhere in this area? This is the this is an immediate retest. Imagine that that is a horizontal level. Now I know it's not perfect. If you're looking for a perfect level, maybe that's going to be it, but imagine that this horizontal line here, that is the that's the break. Okay, so that's the resistance area, okay, and then this is the break, and that's the retest. So here's the break, and that's the retest. Now look at the difference between these two break and retest setups. Even though they are both valid, there is one important difference here. If this blue line is the resistance area, then this is the breakout candle, okay? This is not a clean breakout because the candle closes almost on the level, and then the next candle that is part of the up move has an immediate retest. So you have one candle closing almost on the level but above the level, and then you have an immediate retest, and then price goes up here, and then the retest comes. Still a good reaction, a good break and retest, but the best type of breakouts are the ones where you have a clean candle going through the whole level, closing well above the level, and there's not going to be any immediate retest. So here you have one candle closing not well above the level, and there's an immediate retest. So the level has already been tested right here. What you want to make sure that you do is when you actually enter on the retest, right? So you're looking for the break, and then your trade is going to be based on the retest. The retest that you are looking to buy or sell is supposed to be the first retest. This retest here is actually not the first retest because you have an immediate retest here. Now again, this is not the perfect example because as you can see, there is a pretty good level down in this area right here, and then if you look at that level, then this is actually a pretty good retest if you incorporate these candle closes, because that's a clean candle going through the level, and that's a test of the level. But imagine if the zone is a bit bigger, if we incorporate that wick, then that wick becomes the level, and this wick becomes the immediate retest. That's something important to think about. Another concept that is widely talked about when it comes to the break and retest concept is the first test is the best test. Okay, so this is the first test is the best test, because usually the probability of the first test being the strong move is higher than the second test, because the more times a level get tested, the weaker it becomes. And one thing I like to say is I'm always looking for a rounded retest. And why is a rounded retest important? Well, a rounded retest is important for the same reason as we don't want to see an immediate retest, okay? Imagine that you have one candle closing above the level, and then you decide to put in orders right away. So it looks like this, okay? The candle is breaking above the level right here, and you decide to put orders in right at the level. Well, guess what? This could easily turn into a fake out, because what if the next candle looks like this? What if the next candle is just a red candle and it looks like this? Well, that's a fake out. So what I want to see is multiple candles opening and closing above the level, giving us that rounded price action. We have multiple candles opening and closing above the level before hitting the level. This is because it gives you a cleaner rounded retest, and it also gives you, or it gives the market enough time to accept this level as broken, all right? And the longer you stay above the level, the higher the chance are that it's going to be visible on the higher time frames, the higher the chance are that it's actually going to be a breakout on the higher time frames as well, and you can invite the high time frame players to trade based on this level as well. So the longer price stays above the level, the bigger the chance is that the market accepts that level as broken and accepts this previous resistance area as hopefully turning into support. So you need a clean breakout, no immediate retest, and you want a rounded retest, and you want to make sure that you trade based on the first retest. That's the very core and the very foundations of the way at least I'm trading and many others are trading the break and retest concept. So now that we know what to look for, let's see if we can find some interesting real examples in the markets. So we got the current prices and structure of Euro USD, and let's see if we can identify some break and retest here on the daily chart for Euro USD. Now, the first thing I notice here is I can see a very clear break and retest right here. So as you can see, we can identify a low, a high, a low, a high area, low, and then a high point here, and then it comes down for a low. Make this a little bit thinner so it's easier to see the actual price action. But here we can see how price is actually doing the break and retest multiple times. You know, we can add a horizontal level here, just like in the example. So perhaps add a horizontal level right here, and I'm going to talk more in detail on how to add the horizontal levels and how to look at market structure a bit later, but let's try to identify some break and retest here. So here what you see is you have a resistance area. Could say that you almost hitting resistance here, got a hit of resistance here, and that's the break. This candle right here, that's the candle that breaks the level. So resistance breaks to the upside, and what happens right here? Well, you have a break and a retest. We get another one right here, very good break and retest to the left of us. We can incorporate these candle closes with perhaps these candle closes to the left right here. Let's extend that horizontal zone to the right, and what you see right here is a beautiful example of a break and a retest. So you can see it's very easy to identify the break and retest, and that's why I believe this way of trading and this concept is so effective and so easy to use. It's visible in pretty much all tradable markets. It's easy to identify, it's fairly easy to trade, and the probability of a level that has been broken to get retested is actually quite high, as I will show you when we look at the data of this. Let's go through Euro USD, and you know what, why not go to another pair? Let's look at the Euro NCD. Let's see if we can find more examples of the break and retest concept on Euro NCD. So we've been on the daily, why not go to the weekly? Maybe the weekly can show us something interesting here. Do we have a, let's see, do we have any good examples here? Well, on the weekly, the break and retest, it can look very different. We can add a horizontal zone, maybe just add a line here. So you have a line here, and you see that you have a area where price is breaking above here. It's retesting right here. The bounce is not super big, the move is not very strong, but still it is a break and retest, and this is on the weekly. So of course, if you are going into lower time frames, you look at this as a weekly break and retest, and then you go into lower time frames to get a better entry. Still, you would have gotten a fairly good trade here, and I'm going to show you how to do that later in the course. Now again, the break and retest can look different, right? So imagine that you have a level that goes maybe on that support. So that's the support level right there. You can see how price breaks above that support, gets retested, comes up to that resistance area, breaks down. Now it's breaking above that level right here, and all of this move is a retest of this level right here. It's another break and retest. So again, they come in all sizes and shapes, but they're all very effective. Again, you can see perhaps you get another example right here. You can add a line right here. Here you have a weekly level, weekly candle going through, a weekly retest. Now imagine that you're looking at this level on a weekly perspective, and imagine if you were able to get an entry here. Okay, that's a weekly, that's a break above a weekly level. It's testing the weekly level. Now imagine if you're using the weekly as your time frame, and then you go into the lower time frames and you're getting an entry right here, that could have been an insanely profitable trade. And here we have another one. We add a level right here. We see price breaking above that level and then retesting that one right here. So let's see if we can find any trend lines, if we can get any break and retest of trend lines. Again, I just want to show you some examples of this. And what I'm going to do here is just to make it easier for me and to make the example better and easier to understand. I'm going to use the parallel channel tool here in TradingView to mark out my horizontal, my diagonal trend lines, just to make it easier to show them in this example. So let's assume that this is a trend line. Now I know this is on a weekly, but again, we're going to go into concept of price action being fractal, so you will understand that it doesn't really matter what time frame you're on. But let's imagine that you have a trend line area going through something like this. Here you have a trend line, resistance, 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 and a break. Right here you have a break above the trend line, and you could say that you have a retest here, or maybe even a retest down in that area. So the break and retest concept is something that you can use with horizontal levels. You can probably add a trend line here. So let's add a sort of a trend line area here as well. You can make something interesting out of this one. What do you have here? Well, you have a level, a trend line where price breaks above the trend line right here, and then retest the trend line right here for a move higher. So the break and retest concept works on horizontal levels and trend lines, and then also I'm going to show you later in the course there are other trading styles and techniques. But now we know sort of how to identify the break and retest and what a break and retest looks like. But there are, in my opinion at least, the way I'm trading it, there are good break and retests and bad break and retest. And I want to go a little bit more into detail to see if we can determine when is a break confirmed and when is a retest confirmed. What does that actually look like? All right, so we've already talked about what the break and retest strategy is. I've showed you some examples. So now that we know what to look for, I want to take a look at the importance of market structure, and I'm going to be focused on showing you how I mark out my horizontal levels. So I'm going to be focusing on horizontal levels in this course. Now, as you've seen, you can use the break and retest strategy or system on basically, it can be a break and retest of a trend line. It can be a break and retest of horizontal level, a channel, a EMAs, or whatever. But I'm going to be focused on horizontal levels here. And I do think that when it's important to understand how this is all done with horizontal levels, because when you understand how to add the horizontal levels and how to do the break and retest of the horizontal levels, it's going to be easier for you to implement this on other types of levels to look for a break and retest. So now again, price action, as you know, is fractal, and that's something we're going to talk about more later in the course. But I'm focusing on the higher time frames when looking for my levels, because I'm personally predominantly a swing trader, and I'm looking at high time frame levels, and then I'm going to find entries on the lower time frames. Now I will show you how to do this on a day trading basis and a scalping basis as well, but for now I will focus on the higher time frames when adding my level, and the process of adding the horizontal levels is just the same on any time frame. So what I like to do is when I'm starting out, and this is good if you're a beginner trader and you're starting out learning how to add levels, we go to the line chart. So up here, you will see that you have line chart. You can also, the arrow down here, you find all the different types of chart layouts here that you have on TradingView, and I have started the line and the candles. We can remove the bars right here. We don't need that one. So we start with the line chart, and this is on the daily. Now we're going to be using the magnet tool. So I'm going to be using the strong magnet here. So now that we have the strong magnet, whenever I press Alt plus H and I have the cursor above a top, so I press Alt plus H, and you will see that it automatically adds a level on that high. This is because I'm using the magnet tool, and the magnet tool automatically. So you have two types of magnet tools. You have the weak and the strong. The strong one snaps the line to whatever candle, whatever line high is closest to the cursor, no matter where you have the cursor. If I select the weak magnet and I press Alt H up here, you will see it adds a line here, but when I get closer to the high, it adds one below. So the weak magnet, the strong magnet, that's the difference between those two. Here we're going to use the strong magnets for this example. So we're just going to be adding some horizontal levels to the highs and the lows of the line chart. And for those of you who don't know, the line chart removes the wicks from the daily, it removes the wicks from the candles. So if you have a bar chart, it removes the wicks and only shows you the closing price. So we're going to be adding one here to that high. We're going to be adding one to that low right here. And we're going to be adding one to that one as well. And then we have a nice high right here. And you start seeing something interesting here, right? Now I'm just going to be adding lines to all of these, the major highs and the major lows. We're going to look at levels where prices has had some extreme reactions or some strong, basically levels where prices reacting nicely to having good bounces or good rejections, right? And we start seeing a pattern here. Right away we start seeing a pattern where we have one cluster of horizontal levels going through this area. Now what I like to do is, when I have a cluster like that, I select the rectangle tool and I'm gonna encapsulate this cluster of horizontal levels. When that's done, I'm removing the horizontal levels. And then we have another cluster above. I'm going to encapsulate that level or that area. I'm going to remove these lines. And this line right here, I think that's just a lonely horizontal level, but it kind of makes sense. Now again, I can add the magnet tool again, and I can begin adding some levels here. Now in that area, you see that you have a pretty decent horizontal area here as well. And that all the way to the left. Remove these lines. And what about this cluster above? Now usually when you have a big cluster like this one, I try not to encapsulate all of them. And I could see that this might be two levels, right? Going to be adding a level here between those two horizontals. And then maybe we have a level above between those two, like that. This might not make a lot of sense watching this on a line chart, but look what happened when we switched to the candles. You see here that the levels that I've added on the line chart. Now the candlestick chart is much more messier, if you will, right? But because you got the wicks and everything, and then you switch over to the line chart, it's a much cleaner chart, right? We can very easily see here that you do have a horizontal level here with being used as resistance, get a breakout here, get support. That's a pretty decent level, right? And then you have the level we added above, which is you get support here, get some type of resistance before the breakout, get a strong resistance here, resistance. So that's a good level. Okay, now what I like to do when I switch back to the candlestick chart, I kind of like to make them try to optimize the level, if you will, and make them smaller. I can do that on the daily, and then also I can go into the 4 hour. So these two levels very good, but these, you know, this cluster of like 3 levels above, I'm not really sure about these, but I want to go down to the 4 hour to see if I can find like better levels here in the 4 hour, because remember, the right side of the chart is always going to be more important than the left side of the chart. So now that we're in the 4 hour, these daily levels definitely look good. I like these on a daily, but what about this on the 4 hour? What about these levels on the 4 hour? I'm not really liking all of these. This one, I'm not really liking that one. However, I'm liking the one above, this one here, but not that one. So you can kind of see if we go to the line chart, you can definitely see that there's some good levels here. Okay, you got some sort of reaction here, and then, you know, got support and breakdown, got resistance, but here, not sure about that. Let's see if we can adjust these levels a bit. Let's make them a bit better. I would look at this as a level, something like that. I think that looks good according to the right side of the chart. And then if we can perhaps incorporate, well, actually it's very difficult on this chart here on Euro NCD with current prices, but I do see that as a good level. And we do have a good example of a break and retest. We can use the replay tool here. And when you can't find good levels, it's best just to let it go. You will not always find good levels. I do think this is a rather good level though, like that one right here. We can, when adding the levels, make sure that you're try to ignore the wicks and focus on the candle closes. So right here, I've added the low of this zone from the closes of these two candles right here to that one right here, and it kind of makes sense. You have sort of a, looks like sort of a fake out here, resistance, you got a breakout here but fails to hold as support. So if I would be making plans on this from a break and retest perspective, I would basically look for this, a break and retest of that level, same as we got a break and retest of this level right here. Okay, and then of course that is the first retest, that's the second retest, that's the one you want to get in on. Now if you're using a set and forget approach, you would probably have orders here, stops above that level, and TP here, and you would still be in this trade that would have hit TP. So that's just a quick breakdown of how I add horizontal levels. Now, of course, when adding horizontal levels, it's all subjective, right? But you want to make sure that you look for levels first on the line chart to make sure you get a clean perspective. Now, I don't use the line chart today, but when I started trading and when I started adding horizontal levels, I always looked at the line chart first because that's it teaches you to see the chart from a cleaner perspective. Now that I've used the line chart to add my horizontal for many years, I'm only looking at the candlestick chart. But you want to make sure that you add the good looking levels on the higher time frames, and then you start adjusting those on the lower time frames. So I start with the daily, add the levels, go down to the 4 hour, make it a little bit more compact, with more emphasis on the right side of the chart. And you want to make sure that the levels that you're actually adding is levels where price have had strong and violent reactions. Okay, so this level right here, you have a very strong bounce here. You know, that bounce takes you all the way up here. That rejection for resistance, rejection, strong move to the downside, bounce, strong move to the upside. This one here, strong bounce up, resistance, 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 all very strong moves. Same with that bounce right here. And so it's very important to look for levels that are visible on the higher time frames, levels that have been in play for a long time. And certainly this level, if you move it to the left, you can definitely say that you know, this level could be part of that move, this one right here, because again, when you're adding the candles, you'll see that there's actually, this is a fake out of that level, this is a hit of that level, that's a fake out, that's a wick hitting that level, and these are wicks hitting that level. So that's definitely a level that's been in play for a long time. Same thing with this level that we've added on like the lower time frames. This level has also been in play for a very long time, all the way back in April 20, so a year ago, with this level got tested right here. So make sure you try to find levels that is visible on the higher time frames, has been in play for a very long time, and when price is hitting that level, it needs to be a violent and strong reaction that shows you that this is an important level. When you find those high time frame levels and you can find entries on those on the lower time frames, like the 4 hour, 1 hour, or even the 50-minute, that's when you get the really good trades using the break and retest system. Right, okay, so for part number 3 here, we're going to talk about the different types of trading styles and the fractal nature of price action. And I'm going to begin by walking through the different type of trading styles, and we're going to begin with trend trading. Okay, so back in trading view here, I'm going to remove these. Okay, so it's a very specific way of trading the break and retest, and I'm going to show you. So we're going to be looking at an uptrend right here. This is an uptrend, okay, and you could say the picture perfect market structure, and you have a horizontal level right here, and you get one right here. So when trading the break and retest from in a trending environment, you should look at it Like if you are walking up a flight of stairs, okay? So you get each of these is like one step in the staircase. To get one, and then you can like take one step here and then another step here. Or, you know, if you're looking at this from a inverse perspective like this, and you're shorting, imagine that you're dropping a ball, maybe dropping a bouncing ball at the top of a flight of stairs, and you see that ball kind of bouncing like this. And every time, you know, that ball bounces, that's when you want to get in. So imagine maybe you want to look at this from a perspective where you're standing at the bottom of staircase, and you're kind of looking up and you're throwing a ball, and then it's like bouncing upwards and it's taking one step at a time. So when trading the break and retest from a training environment, it's basically very, very simple. Okay, so in every uptrend, you have higher highs and higher lows. And when price is breaking above the local high, the most recent high, so imagine price is trading down here, and the local high, the most recent high, price breaks above that one. That always have to happen with the break and retest in a trending environment. So that you always have to have the break before the retest, and the break in a trending environment is very obvious where that level needs to happen. So usually what I do is I place an alert here on TradingView. So price breaks out and I have an alert, and that alert would tell me price is breaking out, go long on the retest. And I then wait for price to get up. I add another alert on this level, and it alerts me and says breakout level is now getting retested, get ready to long. Okay, and that's basically all you're doing. Break, wait for the retest. Break, wait for the retest. Break, wait for the retest. Very simple. And because of the fact that in a trending environment you have, of course it's not going to look this clean, but in a trending environment you have the highs and the lows. Okay, where is a trend invalidated? Well, I would say that the trend is invalidated when the previous low gets broken. Therefore, a very good level for a stop loss placement would be that level, because this invalidates the trend. When trading the break and retest with the trend, you have to make sure that you follow the behavior and the characteristics of the trend, and you want to place your stop loss where the idea or the trend is invalidated. Same thing with TP. If a trend is invalidated, it will a lot of times look like this. Okay, you might form a range or you might break down. If you form a range, the end of the trend will usually be here at the last local high. That's why you want to TP at the last local high, or the FTA, the first trouble area, and you want to place your stop loss below the previous low, depending on the risk reward. Or if you're looking for a more low time frame entry, you can place the stop loss below the low where you entered, where the bounce. So you enter here, stop loss here, TP here, you take TP here, and then price can do whatever it wants. You can validate the trend or whatever. That's the foundation and the basics of the break and retest in a trending environment. What about range trading? Can we use the break and retest in a range? And yes, we very much can. So I'm going to select the fib tool and the range template here, and we're going to be adding a nice little range right here. Imagine that price is trading within this range like this, and here it's also a very good example of talking about the fractal nature of price action. So this market is trading perhaps on the daily between range highs and range lows. So this is on the daily. Now in most ranges you have also a clear middle area, which is usually called basically is the middle of the range, or range EQ, which stands for range equilibrium. It's just a fancy word of middle of the range. Now, when an asset is trading within range, which happens quite often in the Forex market, you can look at the middle line. I mean, obviously, when price is trading within the range, you're not going to be able to do a break and retest of the range highs or the range lows, because that's the definition of range. The range highs and the range low, they don't really break. Otherwise, it's not a range. But the middle of the range, you're going to see price fluctuates between the middle of the range. And a lot of times you will see a break and retest of that range EQ. So you will see a move to the downside and then a retest before moving down to the range lows. Same when you have a bounce at the range lows for a move up to range highs. A lot of times you will see price do a break and retest of the middle of the range. So when I play ranges using the break and retest, I have three types of trade setups. Either a break and retest of the range EQ, or I look for a deviation below the range low or above the range high. And then I look for a reclaim range lows, and that's going to be my break and retest. So first a move down, and then when it starts reclaiming the range lows, it's a break and retest, and I trade this from that. And now here you got your entry here, stop loss here, and TP could be at range EQ or even at the range low. Usually these are quite high risk to reward trades. Same thing here, deviate a fake out above range highs, reclaim range highs again back inside the range, and that's the retest down here. Stop loss, entry, TP, or even all the way down here. So that's number two. So first, break and retest of range EQ. Second, break and retest of range highs or range lows. But then my favorite way of trading a range is basically a break and retest of range lows or a break and retest of the range highs. Because usually what happens is when you have a range and you have a break and retest of either range highs or the range lows, there is a possibility of starting a new trend. So let's say, for example, you have a high time frame level right here. I love to trade it like this, where you have a break and a retest of the range highs all the way up to the next high time frame level above. So that's the difference between trading a trend or trading a range with the break and retest. But the concept and the principle is still the same. You're looking at ranges and you're adding the horizontal levels in just the same way, and you're applying the break and retest concept in just the same way, whether you are trading a trend or a range, or if you're trading a universal strategy, or if you're trading using EMAs or whatever. The core principle and the foundation is exactly the same. What about the fractal nature of price action? I always keep talking about the fractal nature of price action, and it's when we're on the subject of range trading, I think it's a very good example of this. Now imagine that this is the daily range, and I'm going to be just copying this like this, copy and paste. I'm going to be moving this to the left here. Let's see if I can move this right there. Perfect. Actually, I moved it to the right, but doesn't matter. Okay, so these are the same ranges, okay? Exactly the same ranges, but imagine that to the left, you have the daily, okay? So everything within the red rectangle is the daily chart. And then to the right, you have the 1 hour chart, okay? So green is daily. And then we're going to be looking at this as inside the rectangle, daily, so left daily and right is 1 hour. And on the 1 hour, the moves between the range lows and the range high might look something like this. Of course, it's very messy. It's not always going to look like this, but this might be on the 1 hour, right? Something like that. And this is the idea of price action being fractal. So you're seeing on the daily, you're just seeing one move from the low to the high is one move, just a couple of candles maybe. It's one straight move. There's no highs and no lows. It's just one straight move to the upside. But then on the 1 hour, within these daily moves, you have trends. And then you zoom in maybe to the 1 minute. Within those trends, you have multiple trends and multiple ranges. And there's a lot of different ways to trade this. So if you're looking at this from a daily perspective, you might say, all right, so this is actually a daily range, and we now bounced on range lows. And you know what if I can get in on the break and retest right here and ride this all the way up to perhaps range highs? Well, you do have a level, okay? You do have a horizontal level right here. What if I get in on that using the break and retest system based on a trending market, but I'm applying the overall idea that this is a high time frame range? So here you're using the idea of price action being fractal, you're using multi-time frame analysis. You're looking for high time frame levels on the daily. You're zooming into the lower time frames, and within this range move, you're seeing a trend on the lower time frames, and you're looking at this and saying, my bias is to the upside because we're bouncing at range lows, and we're probably going to come up and test range EQ or even range highs. And this in my opinion is the best way to trade using the break and retest, is when you're looking for high time frame levels. And the idea of price action being fractal is the fact that you will find trends within ranges within trends, and this just goes on and on and all across all time frames. And the best types of trades in my opinion is when you find the confluence between high time frame levels and low time frame levels, where you can apply the break and retest on the lower time frames, but your targets is based on higher time frame levels. And that's how I apply the multi-time frame analysis with the fractal nature of price action with the break and retest concept. Right, so what assets and markets are best to trade with the break and retest? Well, I would say that I've traded the break and retest system for many years in both the crypto market and the Forex market. And I would say that it works well in both markets, but I do think it actually works better in the Forex market. But the truth of the matter is, I've seen that every market that is tradable, every market that has trends that are available to or that creates good trends are good to trade with the break and retest, because the break and retest concept is a foundational concept in technical analysis. So every market where you are able to apply the foundations of technical analysis, you will be able to use the break and retest. With that said, there are some markets where there's like gold, for example. With gold, you have sometimes highly volatile move, and you have wicks all over the place, and usually you'll see wicks taking out a good horizontal levels. From my own experience, the market that works best with the break and retest is the Forex market. I know a lot of good traders using the break and retest concept in the equities markets. They're trading stocks, they're trading equities. We have, futures traders, Forex traders, crypto traders, all using the break and retest system. So I would say it's up to you, and you might have to tweak some details of the entry criteria. Maybe you want to look for better confirmations and things like that. But overall, this concept works in pretty much all tradable assets. The last thing I want to cover here is what is the best time frame? There is no best time frame for this system. You can trade this system completely isolated on the 1 minute or the 5 minute or the 50 minute or even the daily. It doesn't really matter. What matters is for you to have a consistent approach. You're not going to be able to be profitable if you take some trades on a 1 minute, some trades on a daily, some trades on a 4 hour, and you don't really have a structure. You need to be very consistent with the time frame and the approach you are using. From my own experience, and this is also something I've heard from many other traders using the system, is using a multi-time frame analysis where you have a higher time frame bias. You add levels on the 4 hour or the daily, and then you go into the 1 hour, the 50 minute to look for the best entries and the break of structures to get in of the trend. So I would say there's no best time frame, but if I had to choose and say like the best time frame from this, I would say apply a multi-time frame analysis where you combine high time frame levels and the lower time frames for entries.